welcome to this video, the highlights video for the 13th round of the Candidates Tournament. Yeah, let's quickly think about the tournament situation before the last two rounds. Arnand is leading the tournament, obviously, with a +3 score. Won 3 games, lost none, so comfortably cruising, basically. The closest follower is Aronian, is 1 point behind with a +1 score. Then we have a couple of players with 50%. The main point is the tournament only would get interesting in case of a loss by Arnand in this round. Arnand is playing black against Kayakin, and if Kayakin wins the game, then the whole tournament would open up enormously in the last round, because then Kayakin is within striking distance and would have the better tiebreak, while when in case of Aronian winning in round 13 today, he also would even tie the score with Arnand. So this is the important game for the tournament. If Kayakin manages to win, others could actually overtake Arnand. In case of Arnand playing a draw, he's basically, yeah, he's through. So I'm going for the highlights video. I'm starting with the other games and do Vish's game last. So let's see what happened. I'm starting with Svidler Mamedyarov. Both players are basically out of the race for the top place. I mean, theoretically speaking, players on 50% like Mamedyarov could win 2 games, Arnand losing 2. But this seems very unlikely. Okay, here we got a knight off the bishop e3 line. For once, not h3. 1 point of h3, what they had played many times before, is of course it controls g4, which bishop e3 does not do. So it's quite logical that Mamedyarov is going for this line with knight g4, one of the sharper options for black. They actually played a somewhat older line with h4 here. And it turned out that in this position, it's not so easy for white to get any good coordination going without playing knight d5. You cannot castle long, there's just f2 hanging. And yeah, what actually do you play? He went for knight d5, which also looks quite logical. However, after the capture and knight d4, we got some trades going, which really can be hardly avoided. So we had this, and here it's already clear that we have some more simplifications coming up. Svidler decided to go for this endgame here, which, if you look at this, of course looks a bit more comfortable for white. He's got the better pawn structure. But it's also clear that the black king is very well centralized and always keeps an eye on the pawns, not g4, but those pawns. And white can try to do something, but it's even here there is really not much going on. The black king is just protecting everything. The only thing that black needed to watch out for is rook trades. This is a rook trade that he can afford. This actually would still be a draw. But if we look at, there was an earlier way. Let's say here he of course shouldn't trade. This will lead to a would lead to a losing king and pawn endgame. Yeah, of course, Mamedyarov didn't do that. So we stayed within the rook endgame, and it was basically a shuffle back and forth. Very easy draw, actually, out of the opening for Mamedyarov. I guess both players are not really... Yeah, well, okay, they can fight for prize money, but it's simply happening anyway that with a good opening prep, you would get this kind of positions where not much is going on, and there's also no big point in risking a lot here when you cannot qualify anymore. So a draw in this game, quite an understandable result. Okay, let's go and watch Kramnik Topalov now. A game also not relevant anymore for the top places, as Kramnik is on a -1 score, very disappointing, and Topalov as well being on -1. But it is of course a sort of a grudge match where both players want to win, and we got the Moscow variation of the Semislav. Always a struggle between white's good center and black's bishop pair. We see that Topalov has avoided the earlier knight d7 move that covers e5, so white can actually occupy the square done by Kramnik. He's obviously planning after knight to d7 to support his knight with f4, going for a big clamp here in the center. Yeah, c5 however was played. Topalov is breaking up the center, and quite quickly we get this typical pawn structure in the center, the so-called ram formation, where white is a bit more comfortable, but not much. Here we got to a funny situation after queen b3. Here, in fact, black had the option to play b5, which at first looks a bit weird, because queen a3 attacks the rook, and there's bishop takes b5. The funny point, though, is after queen d8 and the capture here, black actually has a draw. It's a perpetual attack on the queen. So black could play b5. It's not a bad move, but concedes a draw. Topalov played b6. I'm not sure if he wanted to avoid the draw. It's possible that he wanted to fight, try to win, but hard to tell. Okay, well, we continue. White is trying a bit on the king side, advancing there, but black defended accurately. All this is well played and not to be criticized. After f5, this is an interesting spot. We now get a transposition to an endgame, which f5 really invites, and white has no great way to avoid it. Got this trades.
Check.
And now white took on f5. Yeah, you cannot go here because of
Check.
bishop e6 check, losing the house. So black must take here. And after this, we got a very sharp endgame with 2 knights against 2 bishops. Normally a bad deal for the knights, but here they cooperate well with the h-pawn and are very active. Black got something back on b2.
Check.
Yeah, and here king f7 was a mistake. It's difficult to show the analysis here in this brief summary video.
Check.
This is now a good position for white because d and h pawn are dangerous, and especially
check.
Here
Check.
we got one further critical position. Here, exactly in this position, it happened. Now, first of all, we need to point out that that after this move by Kramnik, Topalov should have taken on f5, which probably would have led to a draw still. So knight takes, king f7 to g6 seems to be still okay. He played a rook d2, and this has a big problem, and this is
Check.
knight g7. It turns out that this bishop in a way is trapped and can sometimes just be attacked by the rook on the 8th rank. We see that
Check.
after these moves it cannot escape anywhere. Played b4, rook takes, and b3. And here we come to a really amazing spot in the game where Kramnik could have relatively easily won with the rook d8 check. This is what he played. Rook d8 check was a possibility. I'm sure that he had, of course, seen the move. And this is quite easily winning, simply because, okay, the king needs to move, let's say here. They're pushing h7. And well, I'm just promoting. There is not much else happening here, really. Can try that, but
check,
here black has no meaningful check, and this king will be hunted down by white's forces. Just much more attacking power. What I think is he thought that both moves win. His move looks good, but it has a serious drawback. Topalov now captured, but if he would have played, he took a real long time. No, what is the clock doing here? It's going up. This is weird. Yeah, the clocks are nice. See, I just thought that he spent lots of time, but he didn't. Strange, very strange clock display here. Yeah, well, if we look at the pure move, King C7 was drawing the game, because after this,
check,
we have a situation where this bishop is supporting the pawn to promote, and this is in fact the draw. White now will give a series of checks to end the game, but the problem was he took, and now it's almost the same. But the problem is after b2 and this check now, look at this. This is what happened. Now there is no direct threat here because the bishop on d3 is not on the board anymore. So after this check, Topalov resigned. If he moves the king, for example, I'm going here, and b1 is just protected. This is the big difference. So right near the end, he could have saved the game and made a draw. Yeah, well, I guess games between those two are always with such a high tension that they simply make more mistakes than usual, I believe. The first game in round 6 was also an example for that, where Kramnik really played for his standards, very, very weak game. And it's mostly, I guess, explained by nerves and tension. Okay, so this game, a win for Kramnik, maybe not very important, but certainly important for him that he had beat his nemesis at least once in this tournament. Still, it is a big failure to be just on 50% for his ambitions and qualities as a player. Okay, so let's go to Andreikin Aronian. Here, with a win, Aronian could stay in striking distance to Anand, but of course it's not in his hands anymore. Let's say if Anand wins, for example, it's over anyway. But okay, let's see what happens. Andreikin has got white, and Andreikin is on a -1 score, so he's certainly, I would presume, not in any way unsatisfied with his result. Okay, knight f6 and bishop g5. The Trompowsky opening. The Tromp, rare guest at top level, but nevertheless quite a good opening. And an opening that Andreikin is playing sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes he's doing that. He's played many of those type of openings when he came second in the World Cup last year, so it was to be expected in a way. Aronian, however, played g6 after 3 minutes, which is a bit puzzling. And in fact, he played a really, in my opinion, strange setup here, combining all sorts of pawn moves that at the end here led to a position. We can do this quickly, where black has many structural weaknesses here. Everything's a bit weak. He with this maneuver defended these weaknesses. So it's not like black is in a terrible position, but it's simply not a great opening result, especially considering that you might in a way try to win the game. Okay, we got to an end game here where white has this pressure on b7, which in a way almost forces the sequence now. Black takes on c4, taking it in exchange for the b7 pawn.
Check.
And we come to an important position right now. a4 was needed to support b5, bishop b3, and king to b2. So it's an exchange sacrifice. And here, quite surprisingly, Aronian didn't take it. I mean, it's not entirely clear-cut, I understand that, but it seems that it was a much better choice to grab the exchange. And then black has a choice, but my suggestion would be to play h5, going h4, try to open up the h file for counterplay. This is dangerous, of course, for black as well, because there is always this danger that maybe the a pawn gets lost, and then you've got two passes, but this takes a while. And if white is doing that without looking at the counterplay by black, like h4, rook to h2, then it can get very tricky. And this still seems to be a defendable position to me. He took on a4, and this now leads to some trouble.
Check.
White keeps the b pawn and is so active that he will get the a pawn back. We got to this rook endgame now, and here black must be very, very precise to defend it. In fact, only a couple of moves later, right here, Aronian took on f2, and it seems that I'm sorry, it seems that this move actually loses the game. After king c6, white invades, and the king supports the b pawn. It seems that he needed to stay on the c file and play something like rook to b8. It's still not very nice to defend the position, and I have my doubts that black can defend it in the long run, but this is a definite losing move.
Check.
As white now managed to enter with the king, and you can always block against the checks from the back with your own rooks. There's some repetitions here. But after a couple of moves, yeah, we come to the position where this pawn will promote, like rook e8, rook a8, and white will promote the all-important b pawn. So another disappointing result for Aronian, who simply seems to not play at his best in this candidates tournaments. Of course, it was probably already too late by this stage, but losing 3 games over 13 games is simply too much to win this kind of event. Even losing 2 games seems quite a lot, but 3 is just too much. So he's back on 50%, and Andreikin also on 50%, which means that Aronian is also out of the picture to catch Anand at all, no matter what Anand is doing in this round. And this is the game that we still need to look at, Karyakin Anand. Let's pull this, let's click on this here and start the brief analysis of this game. So now that we know the other results, it's very clear cut. If Anand draws or wins, he's the challenger for Carlsen. If he loses, then Karyakin can catch him, and only Karyakin can catch him. So pretty clear outline for this game. We got a Queen's Gambit, one of the numerous anti-Berlin setups, as one could jokingly state, because, well, if Karyakin plays e4 as usual, there might be a Berlin, and not sure you want to try your luck there. They get a Queen's Gambit with e3, a quiet line, but a line that keeps pieces on the board. And we had this early in the tournament, in the game Kramnik-Aronian, where Aronian played b6, somewhat earlier in fact, and they got a really complicated position. And of course Anand is not looking for a very complicated position here. He's playing a quick c5, tries to open up the center and maybe get some simplifications in. Yeah, white now took on d5 and took on c5. You could argue that this is maybe a bit tame, but it's not clear that other continuations did more. After bishop takes, I think maybe white has a slight edge, because this is really nice piece. But it's not much, nevertheless. Anand decided to do something else, though. He played knight d7 with the idea to capture with the knight, which would be very nice if you manage to get this in. So Karyakin decided to give up the pawn in this way, giving black at least something to yeah, something to look at as a weakness on c6. He quickly attacked this weakness with queen c2, but Anand was playing for complete clearance of the queen side with a4. Yeah, white now took on c6, which is probably right. Queen a5 played. Here he had a good move with rook a5, but it's a bit of a computerish line. The idea is to trap the queen after this capture, and it sometimes is possible in this line here to I mean, this is an idea anyway. It's sometimes possible to play bishop to b7 and queen to a8. Okay, but this was played, and this led to simplifications, where black at the moment is 2 pawns down, but will get back one of them, like this. Yeah, so we trade down to an endgame. White has the a pawn, so not a bad opening result for white. And Anand quickly needs to increase the pressure against the pawn, which he did. The only problem was that now there is lots of pressure on c5, and you cannot really retreat the knight. This is a bit too much on the 7th rank. So black has no big choice here, needs to take on a2. And after this, we got by force to this endgame. After 26 moves, we got to an endgame where white has a bishop and knight against rook. Not for a pawn even, so it should be, theoretically speaking, very good for white. It's a solid edge, and it probably is rightly assessed at being somewhat better for white. But the question is, can you actually win this position? Problem is, you would need to win one of those pawns to get anywhere, and it's totally symmetrical. Black has no weakness, and what Anand did, he took a foothold in the center with f6 and e5 and basically stayed put here. Maybe that that Kayake needed to play f4 at some point, let's say here, but he hesitated a bit with f3, and Anand rather quickly afterwards put. We can advance a bit more here. It's just want to show the pawn structure
Check.
Alternating. We had the straights, and here he went to play g5 himself. Maybe really before Karjakin needed to do f4 at some point to make some progress. I am not sure that in this position now there is still anything left to do. He captured on g5, which makes some sense, of course, because now you have two unprotected pawns, at least unprotected by other pawns, that you can attack. But it seems that if you look at the course of the game, they continued for a long while. You see that black always was able to defend the pawns. It's a bit tricky now to show in this summary video. I tried a bit in the longer version of it, but it seems that there is simply no way to get anywhere as white. I can do a sort of fast forward here.
Check.
There was lots of shuffling going on.
Check.
And we came to the point where Anand actually pushed this h-pawn.
Check.
Yeah, let's do that.
Check.
Yeah, as mentioned, it took a while.
Check.
Yeah, here the h-pawn was the final bullet that black can shoot, and use this as a source of counterplay. And around here, it became apparent that there really is nothing left to do. Black is just too active with the rook and the h-pawn. White cannot really break through here. In this position, he even cannot move the bishop away, as h1 is always hanging. So it's a draw for Vishy, and he's through, facing Carlsen again near the end of the year. The venue is not set yet. They have a bidding process. It seems, you never know with FIDE. Maybe they pull something out of their heads and they suddenly play in Antarctica or something. You never know what might going to happen. Okay, so I know that Vishy Arnold is not watching this video, but still I'm sending out congratulations to him for a fantastic effort, really. I mean, absolutely. I really think that if you would have asked like 100 chess players, I mean, besides maybe some people from India who are big fans of Vishy, no one would have thought that he would have been able to pull this off. Even, I mean, also doing it in such a very convincing manner, winning 3 games, losing none, and being completely in control in almost all of the games. This is the only game where he really was in some sort of trouble, and it was not like easily apparent how he could have lost here in this endgame. It was certainly not comfortable, but not like some easy wins in there. Okay, I'll do a summary, or let's say a bit of a, like on a player, for each player I'll do a quick summary of the tournament in the final video for round 14. So I'll leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed the summary, and of course, as usual, there are the single game videos to dig a bit deeper into some details. Thanks for watching.